What's up everyone, my name is Garrett Blackwood. Welcome back to the vlog. We're here at the Victoria Casino in London today, going to play some cards. Really looking forward to it. Going to do something a little different today. I remember my pal Ben a Bad Beat. He's started a YouTube channel, is absolutely popping off. And you're going to see some of his hands in my vlog as well today. It's going to be a lot of fun. One last thing before we get into the action today, I am heading to Vegas next week for the World Series of Poker. Very excited for that. We'll be playing tournaments all summer. I feel a bracelet coming on. It's going to be great. On to tonight's session, heading in a little earlier than usual. The bigger games don't normally start until about 8, 9 p.m, something like that. But we'll see what we can get into and see if we can stack our buddy Ben a Bad Beat. Let's go. All right, guys, straight into the casino and up the stairs we go. I take £2,500 in chips out my player bank and head on over to the new 2-5 game that is just about to start. Buying in here for £1,000. It's a 2.5k cap, but I'm an online guy. I can't play deep poker. 1k is more than enough for me. The game is going to start six-handed. Myself, Ben, a few of the local pros. There are links to Ben's YouTube and Instagram in the description. You guys should absolutely give him a sub or a follow. Now, some pros don't like playing reg-only games, but these guys are absolutely fearless. They'll play anyone to get the game going. Now I'm in the big blind in the very first hand, and I tell the guy to my left that means he's in the straddle. He's going to put on the straddle's going to stick, and we're playing 2-5-10 instead of boring old 2-5. First hand of note comes a few minutes into the game. I'm on the button with 10-6 of clubs and raise it on up to £30. It's going to fold over to the straddle. He's a very good live and online pro. He makes the call. Heads up, we go to Queen Jack 5 with 2 diamonds and 1 club. Some nice backdoors for me, so I decide to c-bet my hand here for £50 using a slightly larger size on the flush draw double Broadway board here. My opponent thinks for a couple of seconds and then he makes the call. To the turn, it's the 4 of diamonds, not what I was looking for one bit. So when my opponent checks it on over to me, I decide to wave the white flag, just give it on up and check it on back. The river is an offsuit 9, and now my opponent leads out for a small size. He bets out here for £40. Unfortunately for this guy, I have been studying river strategies for 2 days solid with the solver, and I know we can do plenty of raising on the river here with our straights and our 2 pairs, and we've got a straight blocker. So I decide to raise it on up here. I make it £145 to go, and he just snap folds. I'm not entirely sure what he can have here, but I do flash my cards as I muck. Absolutely delighted with myself that I have bluffed a live and online super pro here. Just a few minutes later, I'm in the straddle with 6-5 of clubs. The young aggro kid to my left, who is featured very often in this vlog, is going to raise it on up to £25 under the gun. It folds all the way around to me, and our hand is sometimes a 3-bet, so I decide to 3-bet it. This time, I put in the re-raise to £125. Action is back on him, and he makes the call. Heads up, we go to the flop. It is 7-4-4 rainbow. This is as good a flop as can be for 6-high without actually flopping anything. I decide to c-bet my hand for £130, which is a half pot c-bet. My opponent thinks for a few seconds, and then he makes the call. The turn is the 7 of spades, double pairing the board and bringing a backdoor flush draw. I've still got this open-ended straight draw, and I can make lots of hands like King Queen of Hearts and King Jack of Diamonds fold, maybe some ace highs as well, maybe some pocket 8s, pocket 9s type hands, so I fire again, this time for £325. I'm leaving myself about £500 behind here, so I can definitely shove the river and still have fold equity if I want to. High pressure moment here, just 12 minutes into the game with 6-high, even more so when he leans in and asks if I have big chips. I'm pretty sure he's not folding after he says that, but not long afterwards, he actually just lets his hand go.
Sorry, I got to sleep file.
Knowing that you'll see on YouTube.
Yeah.
When you see that, I had 6-high there, mate. Game is starting to get quite good. A couple of loose gooses have sat down, and I'm adding to the looseness of the game. I offer to blind raise under the gun here. There's no double straddle in this casino. I offer to blind raise to £20 on the condition that somebody else puts in a £40 blind raise themselves. A local pro a few seats to my left happily agrees to put in the sleeper straddle. He does so, and then it folds all the way around to the small blind, and she is going to put in the raise to £150. I am so excited to peel my cards here. I look down at Jack 10 of spades. What a pretty hand this is, but unfortunately, I don't think I can do anything here. I'm not deep enough to call, so I make a very tight, very disciplined fold. The £40 sleeper straddle looks down at his cards, and after a few seconds puts the small blind all in for £600. The small blind is going to call it off. She's got ace-queen suited, and the £40 sleeper straddle is got king queen suited. Somehow, some way, the king queen suited is going to win twice here and scoop in this £1,250 pot. The poker gods rewarding him for his degeneracy. Action is getting a little slow for me here, and I'm doing my best not to bleed chips. I say that after just blind raising under the gun. It's easy to do this when you're card dead and put in chips when you're kind of bored a little bit. It's something that used to hurt my win rate a lot, but now I've got mental game zen, just like here when I pick up ace-3 of diamonds in middle position. No straddle for this hand. Under the gun is limped in for £5, and I put in the raise to £20 with my suited ace. Action is on Ben Badbeat in the small blind, and he's going to put in the re-raise. He makes it £105 to go. The original limper actually calls as well, and this looks really tempting to call. Sure, diamonds are great for me, but my ace is so likely dominated, so I just sigh and make a very tight fold. Really delighted to see it come down Jack 9-5 all black. I would have completely missed with my ace-3 of diamonds. Ben's ace-queen is enough to beat her ace-4 after they check it down. Like I say, I used to call there always, but I think it's a pretty standard fold, to be honest. It's just all about not bleeding chips when you're card dead and not seeing too many good hands. Still in profit for the day, but not by much. Hoping that'll change, though, when I pick up ace-jack offsuit on the button. The hijack is limped in for £10, and I, of course, raise it on up. I make it £50 to go. Action is back on the limper, and she makes the call. We go heads up to the flop. It is ace, queen, jack with 2 clubs. Beautiful start for me here with my 2 pair. Now, she has limped a lot of ace-x type hands so far tonight, and it kind of feels like she's either going to call or she's not on a board like this, kind of regardless of what size I choose. So I decide to bet bigger than normal here. I size up to £85, much bigger than I would normally bet on a board like this. My opponent doesn't take too long before making the call. To the turn, it's another ace, absolute ping for me. She checks me, and I don't want to fold out hands like flush draws or gut shots or third pairs, so I just check it on back. The river is a meaningless 8, and I am delighted to see her reach for chips here. She bets out for £130. I don't fake tank for too long because she doesn't have much behind. I, of course, put her all in for the last couple of £100 that she's got behind. She grimaces a little before quickly making the call. I show her the bad news, and she does not have ace-queen. Didn't think she did, to be honest, but you never know. This is the first nice pot of the night coming my way. It's going to send me up £400 for the night. Bit of a cooler by the looks of things on my opponent. We've got a great table here. Action started a little slow earlier in the night, but it's much better now. Everyone's having a good time, and the guys are talking about how small the pot needs to be in this game for it to be socially acceptable to slow roll each other. Around £300 is the general consensus. Not long after this hand, we play a bomb pot. I've got absolute trash and just fold my hand, but the guy to my left shoves all in on the river on this board for £1,500. His opponent takes about 30 seconds before making the call. The all-in player says, yeah, you got it. And his opponent says, yeah, probably, and turns over pocket queens for quads. What's more, the player who shoved the river shows that he had ace-7 of clubs as he rage mucks his cards. He was going for the slow roll and got slow rolled himself in a £5,000 pot. Thankfully, these guys are good friends, so there's no bad blood between them. Talk about slow rolling going wrong. This is going to be the last thing I witness at this table, because right after this, they call the list for the new 510 that's starting, and half the table racks up and heads over to the new table. I lock myself up the 3-seat, great for vlogging, gives a great view of the rest of the table. Into the new game for £1,500. It's starting 4-handed while we wait for it to fill. Let's reset the tracker to 0 for the bigger game here. It doesn't take too long before I play my first hand of note. We do a round of straddles to start. I think it's just 1 round, so I don't add on to my £1,500 stack. Wishing I had, though, when I look down at pocket jacks in the straddle. Bennett Badbeat is in the small blind and raises it on up to £75. I, of course, got a very clear 3-bet here. I make it £225 to go, and he makes the call. Kind of wish he'd just 4-bet there for 60 big blinds. I'm happily getting this in pre-flop. Speaking of happy, how about a jack-high flop? Absolute dream spot for me here. I'm, of course, always c-betting my hand on such a wet board. I throw out £150. My opponent doesn't snap fold. After a few seconds, he just calls. Now, the turn is a black king here. Good card for me to bluff on, so I decide to bet again, this time for £350, and now he just snap folds. Afterwards, he actually tells me that he very nearly raised the flop. I wonder what he could have had there. Maybe a low pair with a diamond, something like that. I wish he had, to be honest, But hey ho. Now the round of straddles finishes, and a hand after it finishes, I look down in the small blinds at the one and only pocket aces. Just as I look down at my aces, the boys at the table say, actually, let's keep the straddle on permanently. Let's play 5, 10, 25. Really disappointing for me because I'm £1,700 effective here, and I would have topped up if I knew the straddle was on permanently. I jokingly ask if I can top up mid-hand. Nobody finds me charming. It falls round to me in the small blind, and I raise it on up to £75. The straddle makes the call. He's not a pro, but definitely not a bad player either. He's a little tight overall, but he's playing pretty solid. We go heads up to flop. It is 8-7-6. Not what I wanted to see here with my pocket aces versus a wide range in the straddle that's going to connect very well with this board. I check it on over to my opponent, and he fires out, and he fires out big. He bets £125. Very big bet on a board like this. I hate it already, but I, of course, can't fold just yet. I go ahead and make the call. The turn is an offsuit king. I check to my opponent. Really happy to see him just check it on back. I'm happy with that because I don't think this player is ever going to check back better on the turn. So I'm pretty sure I've got the best hand here heading to the river. Keep it clean, dealer. Nope, it is a 5, 4 cards straight on board. Really not loving that river at all. So I, of course, check to my opponent, hoping he just checks it on back. But he does not. He bets super small here. He bets £150, a really milky size. It is so tempting to call here versus this size, but like I say, he's kind of passive overall. I don't think he's going to bluff ever in this spot for this size, so I decide to show a lot of restraint and make a very disciplined fold for such a small size. I tell him to show the bluff as he's about to muck. He turns over 9-8 of spades. Good fold, Gazzy B. I give myself a pat on the back, and I top up my stack to £2,500 before we move on to the next hand. These guys are all in for £10,000, but I'm an online guy. 100 big blinds is deep enough for me. If I double up, then I'll play a bit deeper, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. This next hand is against my buddy Ben a Bad Beat. What we're going to do is we're going to switch it up a little bit and do a little bit of dual vlogging. Hope you guys enjoy this.
So next up, we are in the cutoff with Queen 8 of spades, and we open to £75, and Gazzy defends the straddle. I think he's going to be 3-betting probably quite correctly, but obviously defending a lot wider than if it was just a 2-blind, 100 big blind game.
All right, I am in the straddle and look down at ace-jack offsuit. Ben is raised in the hijack to £75, a little bigger than I was expecting him to raise. I think my hand is going to do a little bit of 3-betting here, but very, very low frequency. I think we just always have a call, so I make the call, and we go heads up to the flop.
So we see King 7 deuce with 2 hearts, and I've got no flush draw or backdoor flush draw. I think in a straddle game where the defender's range is much wider, we just get to range bet a lot more boards, and I would assume that this is going to be one of those boards.
So Ben has thrown out a c-bet of £50. I think my hand can definitely continue here. We want to continue with probably all combos of ace-queen offsuit, and then ace-jack offsuit and ace-10 offsuit with a heart in my hand. I've obviously got the jack of hearts here, so I think my hand is just about strong enough to continue here, so I go ahead and make the call.
The turn is an ace of diamonds, and Gazzy starts out with a check. So obviously on the turn, it's probably going to be a mix of sizes between 2/3 and overbet. I'm just going to use one sizing, and I'm just never going to bet any kings, and I'm going to then start developing around strong ace-x or ace-x of hearts or something like that. With that in mind, I just decide to barrel my hand on the turn some of the time, not always. And on this occasion, we do bet, and we go ahead and overbet.
Turn is an offsuit ace to give me a pretty disguised top pair. One of the great things about this is I've got a lot of king x, a lot of 7x, a lot of middling pairs, all these types of hands which can't really handle the heat versus a very, very large bet here. It's nice for me to have one of the types of hands that can continue here. So after he throws out this large overbet on the turn, I fake tank for a little while, and then I go ahead and make the call.
Now the river is a offsuit 5, and Gazzy checks. I basically decide to never bluff my combo, and the reason for that is that we do block ace-queen, but our 8 does nothing for us, and we just have a whole other portion of like 7x and rivered 5x that we can use that make much, much better bluffs on the river. So with all that in mind, I decide to make a pretty disciplined give up, and Gazzy shows ace-jack with the jack of hearts, a combo that I do not think he was ever going to fold, so this time we have dodged a bullet.
When he checks back the river, I know I'm good. Thank fuck he didn't jam because I was snap folding my hand. Really happy he didn't shove for 2x pot because I was for sure folding my hand. Doing really well so far here tonight, hoping that's going to continue. When I pick up ace-10 offsuit on the button, it folds all the way around to me, and I raise it on up to £75. The small blind is an aggressive pro who puts in the re-raise. He makes it £325 to go. Now I decide to 4-bet bluff my hand half the time and fold the other half. My RNG in my head lands on 4-bet, so I make it £650 to go. Now this is a guy that I had 6-5 suited versus earlier in the night. I'm hoping my bluff is going to get through again, but no, very quickly he sticks it in my eye. I immediately muck my hand. I say show the 4 of spades as I do so, and he shows me pocket jacks. No 5-bet bluff jam from him here, although he is definitely capable of it. My 4-bet bluffs never seem to get through when I'm playing live. They just always have it, in my opinion. Next up, I'm under the gun with Queen 9 of diamonds. This is a pretty close open, but given one player is away from the table, I decide to raise it on up here. I make it £60 to go. It folds all the way around to the straddle, and he makes the call. We go heads up to the flop. It is 8-7-3 with 2 diamonds. I've got a really nice flush draw here, and a backdoor straight draw, and 2 overs to the board, so I decide to c-bet my hand for £75, and the straddle is going to bust out the check raise. He makes it £250 to go. I don't think I've got a decision to make here. I've got a queen high flush draw. I can't 4-bet, so I go ahead and make the call. To the turn, it is the queen of spades. I make top pair. There's 2 flush draws on board now, and my opponent bets out again, this time for £500. Now, he announces 500, and just something about the way he announces it tells me that he's off on a little adventure here. I don't think he's got anything at all here, so I decide to just call, keep all his bluffs in, and I don't think I'm folding on brick rivers either. That's not a brick, though. How about the ace of diamonds banging off on the river to give me the second nuts? I'm praying my opponent does the betting for me here on the river, ready to snap him off if he jams. Instead of jamming, he bets out for £850. Again, the way he says it, I'm just so sure that he doesn't have anything at all here. Not that that matters, of course. I'm always jamming. I've got the second nuts. Again, we're not too deep, so after about 25 seconds or so, I shove all in for £1,800 total. My opponent clucks his tongue, looks away from the table, asks for a count. I'm pretty sure he's just saving face here. It's not like it's a massive all-in. It's basically a min-raise jam. Sure enough, he does fold not long after. Like I say, pretty sure he was bluffing there, but I will absolutely take it. Another really nice pot coming my way. A beautiful river there just in case I needed it. Now, I've missed plenty of flush draws in this casino, but it always seems to be hearts that I miss with, hoping I'm not drawing to a flush in this next hand when I look down at 10-9 of hearts in the hijack. I raise it on up to £60, and the guy to my left puts in the re-raise. He makes it £180 to go. It folds back round to me, and I, of course, make the call. Heads up, we go to Queen 10-7 rainbow with the Queen of hearts. I check to my opponent, and he bets out for a small size. He bets £100. My hand, in theory, will definitely do some raising here, but not always, so I decide to take the more passive line this time versus this guy and just make the call. The turn is the 4 of hearts, and I'm getting PTSD here as I think about all the flush draws I've missed when I have hearts in this casino. I, of course, check it on over to my opponent, and he bets out for £800. Really not loving life here versus this very large bet, but what else can I do other than make the call and pray to hit the river? To the river we go. Yes, it's the King of Hearts. No, wait, that's not the King of Hearts. It's the King of Diamonds. I genuinely thought I'd gotten there. The King of Diamonds is off on the other side of the table. I couldn't quite see it. I checked my opponent, never calling a bet here with third pair. He's deep in the tank. Eventually, he does just check it back. The rule in the casino is that the last aggressor has to show here, so he's got to turn his cards over first. He's got pocket aces. Feels like a pretty standard hand from both players. I was a little annoyed to brick off here, but I did get there with my Queen 9 of diamonds earlier. You can't win them all. It would be nice to win them all, but you definitely can't win them all. Lots and lots of pretty starting hands tonight, especially this ace-king offsuit in the small blind. The button raises it on up to £65, and I put in the re-raise. I make it £275 to go. Action is back on the button. I'm kind of willing him to 4-bet so I can 5-bet jam it in his eye, but he just makes the call. We go heads up to the flop. It is 3 deuce-deuce with 2 clubs and 1 spade. Kind of the opposite my red ace-king offsuit was hoping for here, but I still think there's value to be had here on the flop with my strongest ace high, so I decide to c-bet for £300. My opponent isn't going anywhere just yet. He makes the call. We go to the turn, which is the Queen of Hearts. Don't love that card. My opponent's got plenty of floats that have now just made top pair, so I decide to check it on over to my opponent. He thinks for a few seconds, and I'm happy to see him just check it it on back. To the river we go. It is the 10 of diamonds. My hand is a little too strong to bluff here, so I check it on over to my opponent, hoping he just checks back a hand like ace-9 of clubs or something. After a minute, he does bet out, but when the bet comes in, it's only for £350. What's more, he also very quickly says something to me after this. He says this could be a blow-up bluff that he is very well known for. I wish I knew if that meant he was strong, if he was weak. I haven't played with this guy before, so I've got no reads whatsoever on his table talk. I would have probably called very quickly versus a bigger bet size here. He doesn't really rep much when he checks back the turn and then bets the river, but this just feels like Jack 10 of clubs or something for this size. It's a really, really close spot, but in the end, curiosity gets the better of me, and I decide to call here with ace high. He says you win, which is fantastic to hear. I show my hand and he just mucks his cards. Ace high river calls are amazing when they go right. It's not often the case in live poker, but when you think you're good, guys, you gotta just make the call. I'm in a decent amount of profit here in this bigger game. I lose a couple of small pots after this pot before deciding to rack up my very last hand of the night. I'm under the gun with ace jack of diamonds and raise it on up to £60. The guy to my left calls next to act, and then Ben squeezes from the hijack to £350. Kind of a gross spot sandwiched in between two really aggressive regs. Also tight ranges from these positions. Very last hand of the night. I don't want to lose any of my profits back by calling or 4-bet bluffing. So in the end, I decide to make a disgustingly tight fold. Like really, really tight. You guys do me a favor and don't tell anyone for me, please. It can be our little secret. After this hand is finished, I grab a rack and head to the cashier. It's been a very fun grind tonight. No huge pots or crazy all-ins, but lots and lots of interesting spots. Happy to finally book a win playing live.
All right, guys, we are done. A rare winning live session. Absolutely delighted with that. I feel like I played really well tonight. I was a wee bit disappointed when I missed with my 10-9 of hearts, but then I remembered I got there with my Queen-9 of diamonds, and you can't win them all. Nice ace high call, won about £1,500 on the night. Absolutely delighted with that. Yeah, not much else to say. The next time you see me, I will be in Las Vegas. Anyone who knows me knows how much I love that place. Ben Abadby was here tonight. Did you enjoy yourself, Ben?
Yeah, it was sick.
Did you win any money?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Did you think you played well?
Yeah, the boys in the Vic are out of control.
They're out of control. You know, people look down on live regs, but the boys here are very fucking good. All right, that'll do it. Thank you very much as ever for watching. If you could click the sub button, I'd be very grateful. Until next time, take it easy.